Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the Preterist Force channel. So, I figured I would talk about Logan Paul's, Pokemon card and why I think it's a scam and, why I think it's why it still shows that Logan Paul is still, doing controversies and getting involved in controversy. So I figured I would talk about that. So, whenever you hear about Logan Paul, you think about, the forest in Japan, or he went to that forest to film the guy that was hanging there, or or faking his death in front of fans, his tiny little children fans, him faking his death in front of his childlike fan base, or his child fan base, his fans who are literally children, or his child fans, or him ripping off Flowbot's song, or being disrespectful in places like Italy. In Italy he was really disrespectful. He was disrespectful in Italy. He was rude to the people in Italy. He was bothering people in Italy. He was jumping in the water in Italy. He was breaking the rules in Italy. He was told to not jump in the water in Italy, but he did so anyway. So he was breaking the rules in Italy. He was being disrespectful in Italy. He was being disrespectful in Italy. You know, he was told not to jump in the water, but he still chose to anyway. So that's something that needs to be addressed. But his behavior in Japan was even worse because it was the whole forest thing. He was throwing Pokeballs at people in Japan. He was being disrespectful in the Japanese temple. He was playing with a fish in a pond. And he was fighting with his friends in the street. He was acting very outrageous, very rowdy, very rude and disrespectful in Japan. He behaved so badly in front of the Japanese people, and the worst of all, and worst of all, was and worst of all was when he went to the forest in Japan, and and filmed that guy hanging in the forest, showing his hands, which were purple and all of that. So that was all, all awful, but that was all a long time ago. And, Logan's apologized for what he did. He seemed to have changed his ways. He seemed to have changed his ways. He seemed to have changed his ways, and yeah, people say he didn't change his ways, but Logan Paul seemed to have redeemed himself. He was like, apologizing for what he did. He had this big redemption arc in 2018, and it was lasting for years up until 2022 with the whole Crypto Zoo stuff. When CoffeeZilla exposed Logan Paul in his CoffeeZilla in his about when CoffeeZilla exposed Logan Paul and his Crypto Zoo scam. When he was using his cryptocurrency to promote his using his cryptocurrency to get money from his fans. His fans gave Logan Paul, and other people gave Logan Paul their money for his Crypto Zoo scam, and Logan Paul basically ripped them all off, took the money, and never even repaid them. So that's something that needs to be addressed, obviously, by CoffeeZilla and other YouTubers like Kavos, for instance. So, anyways, let's read this article. Logan Paul's controversial ultra rare Pikachu card goes up for auction. A controversial rare Pokemon card is owned by controversial social media personality Logan Paul is going up for auction. The rare Pokemon card that controversial Logan YouTuber and pro wrestling Logan Paul wore into the rings on several occasions is going up for auction, although the card has been dogged by controversy over its actual condition and ownership. Actual Auction House Golden has announced Auction House Golden has announced that the auction for Logan Paul's Pikachu Illustrator PSA 10, a condition rating professional sports authenticator, will be moved up by a week, reportedly because of global demand. Initially scheduled for January 12th, 2026, the auction will open on today, January 5th, 2026, at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. This is the biggest Pokemon and trading card game auction ever held, and the unbelievable amount of interest we've already received led us to open early, said Ken Golden, founder and CEO of Golden. This Pikachu Illustrator card is reportedly the world's only PSA 10 example, although some would dispute that is in the perfect condition. Designed by Atsuko Nishida. Yeah, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the names. I'm doing my best here. Please be patient with me. Designed by Atsuko Nishida, the original illustrator of Pikachu, the card stands apart from standard releases in the much-loved set as winner of the 1998 illustration contest in Japan. Less than 50 copies of the card are confirmed worldwide by PSA. So here's the prices, the grade, the 1998 Pokemon Japanese promo Pikachu Holo Illustrator. Here's the grades, the prices, population, and the POP higher. So yeah, Ken Golden War Logan Paul's 5.3 million Pokemon card to Jake versus Joshua. Nobody knows he had a 1 of 2 watch. Paul acquired the card in a private transaction for $5.275 million in 2021, and it was later put up for sale on Liquid Marketplace, a platform co-founded by Paul, that allows users to buy fractionalized pieces of high-end collectibles. The original listing on the now-defunct Liquid Marketplace site valued it at $5 million, with Paul retaining a 49% ownership stake. The original allure of Liquid Marketplace was that co-owners of items are paid based on their ownership stakes when items are sold. At the time, Liquid owners had been unable to access those payouts on the platform as it had become inaccessible. And Liquid Marketplace posted its last social media update in 2023. Basically, it appears that Paul might have pocketed the money from his own platform. So yeah, basically Logan is just taking the money for himself, after he had a great redemption arc in 2018 for 4 years. Everything was going fine for 4 years, and then 4 years later he just blew it all, threw his reputation away. He blew it yet again, because of his Crypto Zoo scam, and now this Pokemon scam. Honestly, Logan Paul has been caught in controversy numerous times because of his businesses, because of his dealings, because of the fact that he basically takes advantage because of the fact that he basically takes advantage of his fans that are young, that are manipulative, that are easily too trusting, and they give him his money, and Logan just takes the money from them, and has no problem with it at all. He has no problem with that. He's like no remorse for doing that. But honestly, if his fans and all these other people are that dumb to give him their money, that's basically their own fault at that point, because they were basically warned by Kavos, they were warned by Coffeezilla, they were warned by all these other people not to give, Logan Paul their money, and yet they still chose to give Logan Paul their money anyway. They still chose to voluntarily give Logan their money. They chose to do that by their own free will. Nobody forced them to give Logan Paul their money. They still chose to give him their money anyway. That's their own fault. You're basically asking him to take your money at that point. You're basically giving him your money voluntarily at that point. You might as well, because that's basically what you're doing. You're literally doing that by investing your money into his business, and by buying Logan Paul's stuff, buying his products, his coins, his Crypto Zoo coins, his Pokemon cards. You're basically buying Logan Paul's stuff. You're basically investing your money in Logan Paul's businesses, and you're basically, giving him your money. Basically, you're basically throwing your money away voluntarily because no one's forcing you to buy Logan Paul's products. If you're warned numerous times by Coffeezilla, by Kavos, by all these other people in the YouTube community, all these commentary channels, not to give Logan Paul your money, and you give it anyway for his business, that's your choice. You basically messed up on your own free will. You messed up. You made the choice to give him your money. That's on you. You can't blame anybody else for your own choices and actions. If you choose to voluntarily give Logan Paul your money at that point after being warned not to do that, that's on you. That's your own fault and your own choices there. End of story. Paul claimed ignorance. We were told that the funds had been redistributed, and I assumed that was the case. Paul told CLLCT. When I put up my card up for auction, it was news to me that people on the platform couldn't withdraw their money. This has raised questions about the card's ownership, although Paul told CLLTR that he had purchased Liquid Marketplace's interest in the card for $250,000 in May 2024. Liquid Marketplace was taken to court by the Ontario Securities Commission, which filed an application for enforcement proceedings against the company and executives alleging multi-layered fraud in the crypto asset sector. Paul was not named in the application. This isn't the first time allegations of fraud have been aimed at Paul. He has seen them in his 2021 failed NFT game project, CryptoZoo. Paul even went as far as to sue a financial investigator and a YouTuber CoffeeZilla for defamation in 2024 over his investigation and series of videos looking into CryptoZoo. Although Paul showed off the card wearing it on a chain around his neck on his ring entrance on his WWE debut and a few other occasions, it isn't so precious to him that he isn't willing to part with it for a huge payout. This is the most coveted card in the world, Paul said in a statement. It was absolutely unforgettable. You need to take a deep breath. Whew. This is the most coveted card in the world, Paul said in a statement. It was absolutely unforgettable when I received the card, and I'm going to create that same kind of memorable experience for the next owner. I will personally hand-deliver the Pikachu Illustrator to the winner, share the whole backstory, and create a moment that will live with them forever. Golden's Pokemon and TCG auction will open on Monday, January 5th at 8 p.m. ET, Eastern Time. I will close on February 15, 2026, and will feature the Pikachu Illustrator PSA 10 card, as well as some other rare cards from the set. 1999 Pokemon base set first edition Holo Charizard, materials of Pokemon's 10th anniversary event in New York. 1997-98 Japanese second tournament Trophy Pikachu, signed is sketched by Mitsushiro Arita. 2014 Pokemon World Championships Pikachu Trophy Collection, a complete set of 4 cards, including a Pop 1 pristine example. The 2025 Magic, The Gathering Final Fantasy Traveling Chobo Gold Serialized Card, multiple factory sealed booster boxes and cases from Pokemon's early releases, sealed Pokemon video games, such as Pokemon Red version and Pokemon Silver version. Ken Sugimori's signed frame Dawn original artwork. 1993, yeah, here's basically the image of that. 1993 Magic, The Gathering Beta Black Lotus, the November 1999 Time Magazine Pokemon Charizard Pikachu cover, a 1999 Pokemon base set first edition factory sealed booster box with potential for rare Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur cards. And here's another image of that. So yeah, that's basically Logan Paul's scam. His Pokemon card is basically like, giving away this card and basically getting money from his fans for doing so, scamming his fans basically for doing all that. He's basically getting involved in more scams, more controversies. Again, no one seems to and his fans don't seem to understand that what he's doing is clearly wrong, and they're still buying his stuff anyway. Let me see any more stuff about this article. Let me take a look. Yeah, so biggest fraud in Logan Paul's scam, basically talking about the whole CryptoZoo thing, yeah, and yeah, Logan tried to silence CoffeeZilla, but that obviously didn't work, so he had to apologize for what he did, but he still hasn't paid back any of the victims yet, so that's something to keep in mind. Here's a post on Reddit. Very few. If any of that 51% of investors have been paid back, there also should have been a vote to